Hi, my name is Dan Hohenstein. This is EDU 503 Sports Law, and I am doing a case study over the National Football League versus McBee and Bruno's Incorporated. As we take a look at this case, the plaintiff is the National Football League, while the defendant is numerous owners of several St. Louis restaurants. This took place in the state of Missouri, and the National Football League alleges that the owners of several St. Louis restaurants violated federal copyright and communications law by showing Cardinals home games that had been blacked out in the area. Meanwhile, the defendants claimed that they picked up clean feed of the games and thereby showed blackout games of the St. Louis football Cardinals. The NFL sees this as an issue because they own the copyrights of all the NFL games, including the St. Louis football Cardinals. The NFL blacks out local football games if a game is not sold out 72 hours before game time. These blackouts occur in a 75-mile radius around the city where the home team is located. For this instance, they are located at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri. As we take a look at both sides, they each have an argument. The National Football League believes that the defendants picked up the signals for such games by means of a satellite dish antenna. That being said, though, the owners of the defendant restaurants challenged the district court's Copyright Act decision on a variety of grounds. One being that the evidence presented by plaintiffs to show irreparable injury was too speculative to support the issuance of a permanent injunction. Second, the defendant's display of blackout home games falls under statutory limitations on exclusive rights of a copyright owner. That defendants did not infringe on plaintiff's copyright because they intercepted the clean feed rather than the dirty feed. So what exactly does that mean? As television cameras capture the visual portion of the game, announcers describe and discuss the action from a sound booth of some kind. Those simultaneous audio and video signals are combined at an earth station outside the stadium. This signal, called an uplink, is transmitted up to the satellite, which then sends the signal back, called a downlink, to a network control point on Long Island. Because that signal contains no images other than those from the stadium, this stage is referred to as a clean feed. The signal is then sent by cable to CBS studios in New York. Commercials and other interruptions, such as station breaks, are inserted, and it is now described as a dirty feed. So the local restaurant owners do not believe they infringed on the copyright because they were using the clean feed and not the dirty feed. The NFL and the St. Louis football Cardinals' argument to that is that they have the copyright to all the NFL games, clean or dirty. Copyright law has long held that irreparable injury is presumed when the exclusive rights of the holder are infringed, which they believe that the local owners have done. Meanwhile, the local restaurant owners continue to argue that the plaintiffs' blacked out games falls into the category of non-infringing acts under the 110 of the Copyright Act. This portion of the Act states that communication of a transmission embodying a performance or display of a work by the public reception of the transmission on a single receiving apparatus of a kind commonly used in private homes, unless a direct charge is made to see or hear the transmission, or the transmission thus received is further transmitted to the public. So as we begin to get deeper into the law, what laws apply in this scenario? The Copyright Act of 1976 and the Federal Communications Act. The Copyright Act of 1976 remains the primary basis of a copyright law in the United States, as amended by several later enacted copyright provisions, where the Federal Communications Act established a legal basis for regulating wired and wireless communications on a nationwide and worldwide basis. So what did the court find? The record in this case clearly shows that the defendants did far better business on those days when they exhibited the blacked out Cardinals games, and the district court so found. Given all the facts, the court's finding that the satellite dishes are not commonly found in private homes is not clearly erroneous. There was a testimony that the number of such receivers has grown rapidly, and while someday these antennae may be commonplace, they are not now. Furthermore, The district court rejected the theory of clean and dirty feeds represent separate works. Not only could the argument rule out any protection for live broadcasting by satellite transmission, but the court said it also ignored the fact that the game, and not the inserted commercials and station breaks, constituted the work of authorship. Ultimately, the court disagreed with the argument of the defendants and held that permanent injunctive relief was an appropriate remedy in this situation. What is injunctive relief? It is a term used in contracts to describe that one of the parties may seek to stop the other party from doing something. In this case, the owners are no longer allowed to steal or use the clean feed or dirty feed of the NFL games that are blacked out in the area. I found this case to be quite interesting, as one being a St. Louisan and two being a fan of football. I was often frustrated when the Rams were blacked out when they were being tanked by Stan Kroenke, but now I kind of understand the reasoning behind the blacked out games and the NFL.